I'm Matt Anderson. I work with some of the 250,000 different three-dimensional objects in the Society's collection, and consequently, one of my most important tools is my pair of white cotton gloves. I wear gloves for a couple of different reasons, but the primary reason is because no matter how much I might wash my hands or how clean I try to keep them, there's always going to be a fine layer of dirt and oil on there, and I don't want those materials to transfer onto the objects. So by putting on the gloves, I protect the pieces as I handle them. An example of one of the three-dimensional objects in our collection is this Civil War era surgeon's kit. And as you look inside the kit, you see a variety of different materials and different surfaces. For example, this bone saw here has a wooden handle and then a shiny metal blade. And you can imagine that if I didn't have the gloves, I would be leaving fingerprints all over the blade, and then that would be difficult to go back and clean it up again for display. So the gloves help to protect against that sort of thing. The same situation here with the forceps, shiny metal that again would show fingerprints very quickly. This sword belonged to Henry Lester, who was the commander of the 3rd Minnesota during the Civil War. And again, this is another example of an object with many polished metal surfaces that would readily show fingerprints if I were to handle it without the gloves. Our conservation department puts a lot of time and effort into cleaning up these objects, so we want to preserve that cleanliness and that nice clean finish as long as possible. Now there are some types of objects with which I wouldn't wear gloves as I handle them. A good example is this glass milk bottle. The glass is a very slippery surface, and when I put the gloves on, obviously my grip is even looser. So I'd rather have a few fingerprints on the bottle rather than have a broken bottle for dropping it. I also tend to not use gloves when I'm handling very small or delicate objects, things like jewelry or maybe pocket watches, which have a lot of small pieces and require a greater deal of dexterity. There's one other advantage to wearing the white cotton gloves that's really more of a mental advantage. When I slip them on, it puts me into a different mindset. I realize that I am dealing with historic objects here, things that are very fragile and irreplaceable in many cases. So when I have the gloves on, it's a reminder that I need to slow down, handle things with care, move at a cautious pace.
Well, my name is Pat Coleman. I'm the Acquisitions Librarian here at the Minnesota Historical Society, and I am in charge of the book collection and the rare book collection. And just 2 weeks ago I was giving a little tour of the library, and I pulled this book out and passed it around, and I asked everybody what the oldest book that they had ever held in their hands had been, and pointed out that this book was published in 1492. And the particular person who had the book in their hand at that time set the book down quite fast and said to me in an accusatory tone, "How is my handling this in bare hands not wrecking this book?" And I could just tell that that's one of the questions that people are concerned about all the time is with a book, especially an older book or a rare book or an expensive book, how are your hands not ruining the book? Well, this book has held up pretty well over a few hundred years, and the way that we treat books here and keep them in the best the best shape possible is that we recommend that people, instead of wearing gloves, just treat a book with clean hands. So the thought behind this is that books were made to have their pages turned, and the pages are pretty fragile. And what we worry about with gloves is that if you've got gloves on, you're actually quite a bit clumsier than you are with bare hands. And the problem with that is that pages, as I say, are fragile, and it's hard to grab the very next page. This is a book which is popularly known as the Bodmer Atlas, and one of the rarest books in our collection. And because it's rare, because it's an expensive book and irreplaceable, for many years we would ask patrons to look at this with gloves on their hands. And I won't do it, but you can see a little bit of the result of this. There's a tear here, there's a bent page here, there's a corner missing here, and I'm pretty sure that the reason that that happened is because somebody with gloves was just trying to get hold of the page and turn the page. And you can see that it's much easier to do if you're doing this with bare hands. Now that's just for books with pages that need to be turned. When there's individual items like a map, for example, or another example would be our photograph collection, you don't have to turn pages. Then it is kind of easier and cleaner and better for the object if we use gloves on those things. So it's really just the turning of the pages that we're concerned about, and we think that we've come up with the best compromise position on that. So thank you very much.